Yeah, yeah, wouldn't lens. We back with another one for the youths in them. Yeah, young, brilliant minds, future in sight. Got the power to make change, make the world ignite. Let nobody say you can't achieve. Your dreams are seeds, someone just watch them grow. But you gotta believe in the youth effect. We're raising up the youth effect. Can't hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Educate, we get the key, unlock the potential. A lesson every day, knowledge essential. Standing tall, walking proud, let your voice be heard. Unite together as one, spread the love with every word. The youth effect, we're raising up. The youth effect, can't hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Educate, we get the key, unlock the potential. A lesson every day, knowledge essential. Standing tall, walking proud, let your voice be heard. Unite together as one, spread the love with every word. The youth effect, we're raising up. The youth effect, can't hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Create, initiate, push through, no limits. Go ahead and live it up. Respect, positivity, you on your way. Break down walls, build bridges. Yeah.
Another Monday. Thank you. Building bridges. That's what we're doing. Breaking walls at the Youth Effect. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Kathy Robinson Sayan. I'm your host tonight, Monday, 24th of November. Can you imagine? The year is just flying. So wherever you are in Canada and listening to us on SBE Radio, you could be listening to us on YouTube, TDN Network 1, or Facebook, live both on TDN and Cat Peter, my page. Live, you could be also listening to us on Instagram and Roku. So thank you so much for honoring us with your presence. I know that your time is precious. And so we thank you so much, especially in the areas of the world where our time difference is a little bit much. And you stayed up, especially just to listen to us with the information we have in terms of breaking down the barriers and building bridges and reducing the generational gap between the young people, adolescents, and the older generations so that we can understand each other better and live in a more harmonious society. So here at the Youth Effect, you know that we serve as a conduit for the youth with regards to advocating with them, for them, and on their behalf. And tonight we have a very interesting topic for you, which speaks to the overlooked mental health issues in teens and also adolescents and even younger than that in children, which can be mistaken for behavioral problems. It sparks a crucial conversation about recognizing and accepting early warning signs and providing support by parents, caregivers, educators, and the community at large. We know also it speaks a lot to our Caribbean culture, where there's a lot of stigma on mental illness. So we label children other things as wicked or they just being bad, and generally it's just saying they're bad kids. So we are speaking with one of our own experts from the Caribbean in the person of Miss Francisca Plummer, who hails from our sister island, St. Lucia. And Miss Francisca is you see now the thing don't want to open. It doesn't want to open. I have the bio there ready and prepared. Okay, here we go. It's a conversation, right? It's a conversation. So, over the years, Miss Francisca Plummer has been fulfilling her lifelong vision of supporting individuals and couples to facilitate self understanding, change, and renewal through psychoeducation, therapeutic intervention, and mental health consultancy. She holds a bachelor degree from University College London, a master's degree in psychotherapy and counseling from City University London, and a graduate certificate in advanced counseling from the University of Lynchburg. I hope I said that correctly. She is licensed by the Allied Health Council of St. Lucia and accredited by the British Association of Counseling and Psychotherapy. Ms. Plummer has 22 years of clinical experience working clinically across diverse populations and in various settings, including employee assistance, psychiatric services, substance abuse, and college counseling. Her work experience began in 1999 at the Golden Hope Hospital. She later served as the acting director of Turning Point Drug Detoxification and Rehabilitation Center in St. Lucia and as a mental health consultant on the St. Lucia Mental Health Reform Project. Ms. Plummer currently operates a vibrant private practice. Over the years, she has also served as a consultant to regional governments in the area of mental health and psychosocial programming and curricula. She facilitates a broad range of mental health training locally and regionally and has lectured extensively in a range of liberal arts and psychology courses throughout her career. Ms. Plummer founded and coordinates Pillars of Hope, the cancer support group of the St. Lucia Cancer Society. Welcome, Francisca.
Thank you, Kathy, and good evening, listeners.
Good evening, and thank you
So good to
so
be here.
much
Yeah,
for sacrificing your time to be with us tonight.
it's my pleasure. It's always interesting to talk about teen mental health.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I introduced the topic, and I gave a whole nice brief, and I forgot to say what the topic was. Maybe it may be indicating I may have a mental illness somewhere. So it's our topic tonight is quite broad, but quite an intense kind of topic. I think
Mhm,
um, we're speaking on mask distress, uncovering hidden mental health struggles in teens. Whatever perspective you want to look at it at, and of course, I'll be asking some questions. But one of the things that always comes to mind for me when, well, I will, one of my pet peeves is that there is so much um, things that are going on with children at young ages, and in the Caribbean especially, we have a thing, you say, oh, they're just wicked, or they're just being bad, they're just bad children, where there can be
mhm,
so many things. Not that we want to label children, but it's good if we can see early signs of things going on with children, because right now autism is has such a broad spectrum. There are so many different issues that may show up in children that are dismissed and not taken on as they should at an early age, where causing consequences of the child's life being affected later on.
mhm,
What's your
mhm.
take on that?
I mean, I think that represents the general kind of thrust in our culture. Really, like
Mhm.
generally, mental health has been disregarded. It's been kind of lagging behind general health. People don't have typically for many years not paid that much attention to mental health as they might to physical health conditions. And it is the same for children because generally people believe that if you had food, clothing, and shelter as a child, what was the problem? There should be nothing wrong with you. But of course, as we learn more and more and more, and we look at the state of mental health of adolescents and young people, we see some alarming trends.
Could you give us one of those trends?
I mean, the rate of depression and anxiety is skyrocketing in teens at the moment. So
Hmm.
that's definitely a cause of concern and it's presenting in clinical practice. I work in a college setting, so I see young people every day between like typically 16 and maybe 25, maybe a bit older. And I see them also in my private practice. And the, 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 the nature of mental health presenting concerns and the depth, the seriousness is quite different from when I started working clinically 20 years ago.
What would you say has been the increase on a scale of 1 to 10?
I think again the nature of what is presenting, they're presenting with quite serious mental health issues very early. When I first started working, and I even first started in the college setting where I worked, young people would come to me with like relationship issues, friendship
Mhm,
issues, and things like that.
mhm.
Now they come in with serious depression and anxiety that results in a depression referral to psychiatric services. They come in with serious family issues that requires a referral to like family court or other issues. They come in with serious financial issues that makes it hard for them to manage. So just the nature, and sometimes they have multiple of these issues. At one time. So they are feeling the impact of their family situation and other things happening in their lives.
So it's a combination of socioeconomic as well.
Yeah, definitely socioeconomic, I would say, is high up on there. Family issues that includes financial difficulties,
Hmm.
definitely high up on there.
Okay, interesting. Oh, what I'm interested to know, you started 20 to 22 years ago. How much could you give us a brief percentage of how much rise it has occurred from since you began to where it is at now?
In terms of the number of students and young people who are presenting in my practice, is that what you mean?
Yes, I'm asking, let's say we could use your initial years as a 0 point.
Yeah.
As so how much increase have you said? Maybe by 10%, 20%?
Whoa.
Oh,
Okay, so if you're referring to that, I would definitely say over 50% increase in the number of
wow.
people.
That's
And I see
heavy.
young girls and boys. Yeah.
Equally?
Um, Not equally. The boys would slightly lag behind girls in their presentation, and they may come initially for different things. So they may come to get help with something really specific, like they want support for schooling or something like that. And as you speak to them, you tend to realize that, hey, there are maybe other issues that they are open to talking to, but they may not always present for help with these things.
What behavioral? Okay, so I'm going to hold that point. I wanted to ask, when we say boys lag behind girls, a lot of times because we're looking at it as statistics, but statistics and data can only present when when they show themselves. Maybe there might be a lot more boys who do not come, but they have the issues.
Yeah,
So a lot of times that is what might be the problem is to,
yeah,
but we'll come back to that.
absolutely. Yeah.
I want to address the mask distress. So what do you what is your perspective on mask distress?
I think that mirrors our society, to be fair. I don't think this is only a young people thing. I think it is a societal thing. So people are walking around generally, and my experience, and they will tell you if you ask, they don't want people to see how they feel. They don't want to show vulnerability. They don't want to seem weak. They are not, they may think that emotions are important, but they don't always want to express it themselves. um, and so they are generally walking around trying to look happy and trying to look good
Yeah.
and even, but not always feeling that way at all.
Yeah. Does it, and it's again, to it goes back to the stigma of mental ill health in the society, right? So they
Yeah,
feel
there's been
judged and a sense of
a
shame.
lot of stigma all through the years. When I was in early in psychiatric services and way back then, it was a lot of stigma. When I first started practicing, people didn't really want to park outside my office. They didn't
Mhm.
want to be seen, you
Yeah,
know. It has changed a little bit, but I think still the young people I see today, they are still impacted by some of that stigma, and
yeah,
they generally will tell you that they don't want to seem weak, they don't want to break down, they want to avoid, they don't want to deal with the things that are going on. Sometimes they feel overwhelmed by it, they can't see a kind of a resolution, so they prefer not to go into it. So they turn to things that help to give them a quick way of feeling good, and sometimes that causes other difficulties for them as well. Mm. I can't hear you.
sorry. I
Yes.
have a funny mic that's now putting me to shame. So in cases, as I say about the mask distress as well, I would really also want to explore the vulnerability of young children if we take it
Hmm.
all the way back. Maybe in that case, it might not be. I want to look at mask in a different perspective in terms of it. The behavior is hiding behind other things parents themselves do not want to accept, because we know, for example, autism, and when children are developmentally lagging behind, parents can be in denial for getting the help for their children because
Yeah.
they think it is saying that their children are stupid or whatever. I know in the States, for example, there are so many services for children who need the help. There are all kinds of services, but there are lots of parents who do not take advantage of it because they're in denial, and the children end up now staying behind for years because the parents do not want to accept that the child needs help, depriving that child now of needed help that would help them advance and be at the same level, in terms of where they're supposed to be at, because there is the help. And right now in the Caribbean, we know that there is a wider awareness. But have you
Mhm.
seen the level of acceptance increase with that
I would
awareness?
say that people tend to continue to struggle with it. I think it's very difficult for parents to come to terms that their children may have a learning or developmental difficulty. So they struggle with it. They will delay sometimes going for help. You see those who do go forward, they want to get their children tested and they do what they have to do. And then you have others who are like, no, that's not what it is. And then you will have society kind of reinforcing that sometimes. No, it's not that. They will encourage the families to go and look into all kinds of other things to see, because again, the stigma that exists about that
Mm,
is
mhm.
really a challenge for them. So they can put off getting help for a long time.
Okay, what would be your advice or suggestion to these
Mhm.
parents or these or persons who may know parents in that predicament? What would be your
Um,
advice for them to support the parents?
I think gentle support, encouraging them to at least do an assessment. I think an assessment doesn't hurt, just to know what's going on. I would encourage them, hey, at least let's know. Sometimes it may not be something diagnosable, but if it is, there is early intervention and that can really support them. So just being there, supporting them, get the information. Where can they do this testing? find that information, give them a number, let them know how they can have an appointment, give them options. Maybe they don't want to use public services. Is there a private practitioner that they can go to that they might feel better with? So, as much information as you can to support them, I think is usually really helpful, you know.
But it comes back again. Do you think, in your expert opinion, that the diagnosis is what they might be afraid of, in terms they might feel that it's labeling their child?
Of course, I think a lot of people will struggle with that because sometimes they think that it looks bad on them. Their child has a problem, or they made a child who has an issue. What does that mean for them? There's a lot of stigma for the parents that they sometimes feel, because their child is the one with the problem, whether it's autism, ADHD, or even anxiety and depression. They feel that impact too. They might idealize other children. Well, they don't have a problem. How come my child has a problem? They may question themselves. Did I do something wrong? Did I in my pregnancy? And they go back and they kind of mull over this. Maybe it was too much stress. Maybe it was the relationship difficulties. So there's a lot. It's not just about take the child. That's the act we want them to do. But the
Right.
internal dialogue that they sometimes are having,
Mm-hmm.
it can bring up so much for parents just to take that step you know it can be really psychologically heavy for them and weighty, and they have to deal with a lot of themselves as well.
And that is in one area. I'll always advocate about therapy, coaching. If you don't want to go to a therapist, go to a life coach.
Hmm.
They're not able to deal with the traumas, but can help guide you to create an action plan in developing coping skills.
Yeah,
You know,
that can be helpful for the parents as an initial step to go get the
yes.
child assessed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but as I say, before, yes, it's an initial step before taking it to deal with themselves, as you
Yes.
mentioned, because of
Yes.
the issues. Um, so, and therapy is, we have to step outside of our limiting beliefs, that sometimes people don't even care.
You mean the
Out,
people out there?
out there,
Yeah.
we think of it, we think, and sometimes we live in, because we live in small societies and small communities, that weighs very heavy, because there's always a lot of talk. But when they're finished talk about you, they go on to the next interesting thing.
Yeah,
But
it's
you have to deal
true.
with we have to deal with our own selves and with our own lives. It's not about
Hmm.
for other people, and the children who have been entrusted in our care, what is in their best interest, that is what should be priority.
Yeah, and to be fair, again, there are families who will take the necessary action and they will
Yes.
do all that they can to help their kids. So you do see some of those, and
Mhm.
yet again, you see others who struggle with it. And it's nice, they may think like you that they shouldn't care about what other people say, but there's a kind of dragging,
I
the
know,
resistance
yes, it's
with the
just, yeah,
action or the lack of action. So
right.
they might drag it out, I don't think that's what it is, or they will do some things but not take it to its full extent. So you see it in certain ways like that as well.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
easier said than done for some of us who just do what we have to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, I have a deep interest in how do we help these people who really cannot help themselves.
I think
How do we
sometimes,
really help them?
yeah, the parents is getting them to someone who can talk through it with them. Even that. Because if they don't want to take the kids for assessment, you could imagine they too, their belief may not let them even talk it through with someone who can help. My experience with that personally is that although some of them they may not come directly to me to talk about that. But if they have like an employee assistance program,
Mm-hmm.
and it's accessible, it's on site, or it's easy for them to access, they may use that program and that may get them there. Sometimes the parents who come in and talk about these issues, they may have been referred for something else. But once they are there, they may say, oh, my child is diagnosed with autism or with ADHD or something else, and that may be a route in for them. So I think again, having access to these services, it can help quite a bit because there are more points of entry that are possible for them.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah,
You come into the back door and you leave through the front door.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so some honestly, a lot of times parents who bring up that, they have
Mhm.
come maybe for something else.
Else. Great, great. So that answers one question for, because we don't want to just one. I don't like to talk in negatives. I keep on saying that. We want this to not only be a talking show. It's about giving solutions and helping
Mhm.
action points. What do we do? You know, how do we do it? How do you do it? So thank you very much for that point, which stresses looking at other programs that may lead to them understanding the importance of assessment for the children. And but sometimes the parents, do you think they also know that they can take their children to be assessed though?
Um, I think some of depends if the child has obvious learning or other difficulties that are quite difficult, their pediatrician would have probably picked it up. So they would have had some discussion with their pediatrician around that. That's my general experience, or with other people in their lives. So they have some sense that something is up. Yeah,
Okay.
from usually from early. If it's autism, that might present from like early, from 3, so they have in some sense that there are some difficulties here. Yeah.
Okay, let's up the ante a little bit. Let us talk about illnesses, for example. Okay, so ADHD, everything now, if a child is overactive, is ADHD.
I
There's
know.
always some, there are some children who are hyper. And not only that, I have seen how children get disruptive in class because they are too advanced academically for the class, but not socially advanced enough to go up in a different class. Um, so they are labeled as behavioral disruptors. How would you classify those set of children?
I think we always is always helpful. I mean, I have a psychotherapeutic background, so I'm always interested in understanding what is going on here. The labels can be helpful in getting us targeted intervention, but do we really understand what's going on here? What is this behavior about for that child? What purpose is it serving?
Mm-hmm.
Because it tends to. I know it's very disruptive for us and
Yeah,
we struggle with it, but if there's not a diagnosable issue, what is going on here?
right.
And
Mhm.
it's really important to understand that for kids. And I think a lot of children, they are not having that kind of forum to really be heard and understood deeply in that way. And that compounds issues on issues on issues for them over time. know. So I would really try to have more interventions that sit one on one with kids. Really give them an opportunity to delve into what's going on, what their interests are. Maybe what's going on really. Are they doing things they enjoy? Are they what's going on in other parts of their lives? Because sometimes they don't want to be doing the things that they're doing.
Mhm.
Even things like that can show up. We say they're disruptive, they're bored, they're not interested, so much can be going on.
Yes, that's definitely true. What
Hmm.
about these issues now, like bipolar, that show up? They might show up like sensitivity or. not interested in certain things, or acting crazy at certain times, quote unquote, our Caribbean crazy
Mhm.
terms.
Mhm.
Our culture, we like to call people say, oh, you're crazy, or you're doing this, or you're doing that, or you're acting, you're too oversensitive. And a lot of these things are pushed under the rug when it could be something else that is going on beneath the surface.
Of course. And I mean, for especially the older generations who tend to not pay that much emphasis on emotion, they're going to struggle because younger people, the younger generations, are a bit more expressive.
Hmm.
They may be more aware because of the prevalence of kind of mental health information. They may have some awareness, some knowledge, they may be more expressive, and the older people may have learned to suppress their emotion and not pay that much attention, and think, that's not that important. You get on and you do what you have to. You get on with life, you get up and do what needs to be. Who cares about how you feel? So there's always going to be that struggle you find with it can be intergenerational, absolutely. But you find that struggle sometimes. So that ends up with the young people feeling a bit disregarded. Their emotions are not considered. Some families are very authoritarian. It's like my way or no way. So the young people who are growing up in this culture, they want a bit more say. They want, to have a dialogue, and they may not always have that with their parents. And also, they may be quite dismissed, because what are you talking about? Again, you have food, clothing, and shelter. They can be, for some parents, it's like, what could be wrong with you?
Children not supposed to have any other issues other than go to school and do your work,
And
right?
the expectation is that you should be happy and content because you
Right.
are fed and taken care of.
But then does that provide a safe environment for the child to come home and
Obviously,
express his
the point
emotions?
of all of that is that yes, we need food, clothing, and shelter, but we also need psychological safety. We
Right.
need connection. We
Uh-huh.
need a lot more than that, than
That's right.
just food, clothing, and shelter.
Shelter.
That's a good base.
Mm-hmm.
But also kids need other things. So in some families it's really challenging because there are parental issues,
Mm-hmm.
and these impact on the children, but the parents in their minds, they may not always consider that these things impact the children growing up in the home, the young people growing up in the home.
Mm-hmm.
So again, they will say, well, what is the problem? You're
Right.
okay, you're well taken care of, and not consider how all the emotional, social, and financial issues of the families are kind of, seeping down to the children in the
And
home.
sometimes the children take it upon themselves that it's because of them.
Sometimes they have a lot of things that go through their minds,
Yes.
absolutely, like that. They may blame themselves. They may blame themselves for the family, the parental conflicts. They may sometimes say to me that it's because of me. My mother hates me. My father hates me. Nobody loves me. Because the parents will tell them or communicate either directly or indirectly that you ruined my life, or your father ruined my life and you're just like him. And these kinds of things are really stigmatizing to the young people. It
Mhm.
affects their identity, their self esteem, and it can lead to a lot of issues down the road if this is not really addressed with them early on.
Yes, yes, that's so very true. Bring me back to my days, you see.
You're going down memory lane.
I'm going down memory lane. Like, growing up, I used to be extremely sensitive, and I used to say, "Oh, you're too sensitive. You cry too easily." They used to call me Shia. Our
Yeah,
Caribbean term for
it's
cry
the
baby.
mission we say chinia,
Oh,
like
Shinia. Okay, Dominica, this
hair
is
type.
Shia.
Dominica is similar, right?
Yes. So a lot of these things can be attributed to the symptoms of other things going on within a child. And, Carl Jung called them our shadow, you
Mhm.
know, and there is so much stuff that may be beneath the surface that we are not even aware of. As you say, the subconscious takes on so much stuff that's going on around us, even in hearing the stories of our families, our parents. We internalize those things as well, and believe also
Mhm.
sometimes we may have a role to play in being the protector of our parents, and you know then you take on an unnecessary burden, and then you carry that with you as a child. And there's just really a lot of things that can go on. I remember things in my childhood from when I was 3 years old,
Mm,
and I'm sure I'm not the only one. I know there are lots of people who remember things, though I am also quite aware that when as a child memories can be distorted,
mhm,
but the distortion also serves for causing trauma.
mm.
So going to a therapy and sorting these things out, going to therapy and sorting these things out will be so so helpful for children, and it's also the parents, for helping the children to live a more healthy life. Does
Absolutely.
that
And
make
the
any sense?
challenge I see sometimes with families is that they may actively discourage children from seeking help. So, for example, in the college setting where I am, sometimes
Mhm.
the young people they can come voluntarily to the service, and
Okay.
sometimes they will tell you if their parents knew or if they're 18, they can access the service.
Hmm.
But some of them will tell you that their families will discourage them from going because they're not supposed to talk about. And what, furthermore, first, what do they have to be upset about? And secondly, they don't want their business should not be talked about with strangers. Yeah. So they may sometimes discourage young people from seeking the help that they need.
How do you envision this shift from the narrative in Caribbean communities?
Oh, wow, that's a lot. I think all the education that we can do. So, whenever I have the opportunity to speak to adults, families, parents, aunties, uncles, whatever, we talk about mental health in general. We talk about mental health as a family thing, not
Hmm.
just for the adults, but that the young people are impacted. So, like spreading that knowledge and awareness out as much as possible so that they can begin to be sensitized. Hey, actually, young people can have things that impact on them too.
Hmm.
If there's a family thing, it's not just with the parents.
Yes.
Actually, the whole system is impacted by whatever is going on here.
And sometimes it's genetic to way down the line.
Well, yeah, there are things that would affect families across, generations, and that can happen as well when you come into kind of more mental health, mental illnesses.
Hmm.
Absolutely. But even just everyday stressors and challenges that young people can have,
Right.
absolutely. Sometimes the awareness that, hey, this thing can affect everyone across the lifespan, from the pregnant woman who has a baby right up to the older adults in the home as well.
Hmm. What's one thing you wish every adult understood about what young people with behavioral challenges are actually trying to communicate?
I think I would say that we all have reactions to the things that happen around, in and around us, and
Hmm.
that we have to understand and interact with that in a way that allows us to understand it, to manage it, and to figure out how to go forward. That's what I would really want them to understand. Because sometimes people know things happen. They've come and tell me what so and so happened and this happened to the child. But they do not link that to this thing has impact
Yeah.
on that child. And
Hmm.
how does it impact? Because in trying to go through this generally alone, young people create ways of managing on their own. They do the
Right.
best they can with the resources they have.
Hmm.
Okay, and if they are not getting the proper support and the proper, whether it's parents or professional support, they do what they can. And sometimes what they use to help them to cope is not always the most constructive or the most effective way of doing it. And
Right.
that itself can create more issues for them,
Correct.
you know?
In all of this, though, how do we How do we keep our own sense of calm in
As
juggling so many different emotional highs and lows, you know?
I mean, we want to get to the point where we can be aware, we have some self awareness, and that's helpful, but that we are not on a roller coaster. We have some self awareness, but we are able to regulate our emotions as well. And that's the point. Now, what happens when we are not having that self awareness is that we tend to kind of unconsciously find ways of soothing the thing that we don't want to know it's there, if you know what I mean. So it's not conscious, but still our we are drawn to finding ways to soothe it. Whether that is social media, that is in relationships, that is in many different ways people use to try to soothe themselves. They do that, and sometimes it's not always with their conscious awareness. And that
Mhm.
too, again, can create further issues for them.
Yeah, because they can find themselves in abusive relationships because they're searching so much
For
for
love,
love
for
or probably just attention
attention,
of
love, soothing. They just want someone to be there. They can get into
validation
alcohol and drugs because it makes them feel happy, big
or make
inverted
yes
commas, for a little while.
or
Um,
belonging in a group or
in a
something or
group.
gangs too.
Yeah.
Getting involved in the gangs.
So even though we are not consciously engaging with the issues, they are there. And what I want parents and families and caregivers to know is that they don't disappear. When we don't engage with them, they don't disappear. They just silently impact on us without our awareness.
And they get bigger too, wouldn't
They
they?
get bigger over time.
Would that be in relation to something that you call like when they talk about the
In the
elephant in
room.
the room, you know?
I mean, sometimes families and parents know the big elephant, they just don't want to talk about it. So yes, sometimes everybody in the family is quite aware of some of the issues and nobody's talking about it. So that's a great example of an elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So you mentioned earlier on emotional regulation. What strategies can young children develop in terms of deve- building up that emotional regulation and resilience to
I
be
think
able
for
to?
Yeah, for early kids, I think play is a great medium. That is generally a safe way that they might use. So they might engage in, they may act out certain things, whether it's real or imagined, that happens to them. And in the act of play, they may actually find ways to express things happening for them. So play for young people, as they go through later on, we want them to develop healthier ways, and that could involve things like, for teens and young people, like journaling might be great. I find a lot of the younger people, they may tend to write poetry a lot. So writing, creative writing, poetry, short stories, etc., may be a great way to pour out some of that onto a safe medium.
Okay.
Maybe some of them may have trusted people in their lives that they can talk to, and I emphasize trusted people, safe people that they can speak to. And if that's the case, I would say that's a great way to work through some of the reactions and emotions that they may have to things going on around them. So, absolutely, I think these are some things I would see very commonly helpful in young people.
Okay.
Mhm.
And in terms of we've well, we did mention about parents who are struggling to open up about mental health, but that also comes in building a relationship as well with the children. right?
If parents are stressed and they overwhelmed and they're going through financial, they're going through physical health, menopause, they are sandwiched between generations, taking care of older family members and having teens and young people. All of these things are impacting on them. They may struggle to be emotionally available to themselves and their children.
Yes, yes. And then we go back again to coaching and therapy. It's just a cycle. Last year in our season one, we broached the topic about social media and mental health. What is your take on that?
Social media is, one of those things that's such a double-edged sword, right? Sadly, when in the population of young people I'm working with most times, they tend to use it in ways that I think are harmful to them. They use it as an escape. They mindlessly scroll. They spend hours on this. When I go through, when a teen comes to me, I will ask them about their social media use, and I may ask them to go into their phones and tell me how many hours a day, minutes or hours they spend on there. I'm usually alarmed to see how many hours every day when they are in college as well. Huh? The
Yes.
number of hours they spend a day on social media. When you ask them, you speak to them, how what are you doing online and how what purpose is it serving basically for you? They will tell you it's like it's a way of relaxing. They don't have to think. They just scroll in,
Mm-hmm.
and they can escape for a while. So they get
Yes.
lost in that world. They get a dopamine rush, right, from social media as well.
Right, right. Yes, all that too. Yeah, that was one of the things I was having that conversation with Ashley, my daughter, actually. We had that conversation. She used a term, it doesn't come to mind, but it explains basically the same thing that they don't really, us adults think they're absorbing all this toxicity, but it's just entertainment. A lot of it is entertainment for them. Though we looking on the outside that they are spending too many hours, where we know spending too many hours on social media also has its impacts as well. And but a lot of parents, I'm glad you also mentioned about looking at the number of hours. How do you advise parents where they can have this conversation with their kids and how to find out in the phone the
Yeah.
number of hours that is spent on social media?
First of all, I would say before we get there, we'll get there, but give me a minute. I think parents should think about engaging their children in meaningful and
Mm.
creative and constructive ways, first of all.
Mhm.
Let's do that first
Yes,
before
let's
we
do that.
start to freak out because some of them are home. What are they doing? What are they engaged in? What are their activities? The
Mhm.
kids who are swimming, who are doing things, who are creative in drama, in this, in music, in that, they just automatically have less time at home. They have they have less opportunity in some ways. So I would say to parents, engage with your young people, have them involved in creative and constructive activities. And that helps, right? I'm not saying it's going to cure all of the issue, but it helps a lot. They meet interesting people in the different forums that they engage in if they are in activities, and that can be beneficial for their development, for their social development, for so many things. Not to mention the sport makes them disciplined or whatever creative outlets they are engaged in. So let's consider that. Let's start that early with young people. I
Yes.
just had a talk with a parent. I think the child might have been 9 and not doing any activities, but the child is actually interested in certain things, which I had to
Mhm.
talk with the parents about. What's going on? How come, this child is not engaged in anything? You
Mhm.
know, he's interested in these things. Can we look at that? Is that possible? And they're like, yeah, it's possible. But I don't know why they had not really engaged. But he has a lot of time after school then to go
Mhm.
on his tablet and be there for hours,
Right, right.
after homework. So, first, I would say let's look at that. Let's look at family time. What's happening there? Are you doing anything? Are you engaged as a family? On the
Mm.
weekends, is there any activity that happens that can engage with, as a family, as young people? What are they doing? I would say let's look at that too, because I think that can help. Yeah. And then, yes, let's look at the social media use. Most parents should have a way to have a dialogue with their kids about their phone use. They should have access to that. They should be able to enter I mean, if it's a teen or a young adult, I mean, you obviously need to have a conversation with them and have ways that you agree that you can monitor their use of their phones and their social media, etc. But that you can have a talk with that and see what's going on.
Mhm.
Yeah. One thing I notice young people would tell me sometimes is that the phone and social media is one of the ways that they can communicate with friends, especially when they can't go out very much.
Right.
Um, they're at home a lot or the parents are quite strict. The phone then becomes really important for them
Important. Yes. Yes.
because it's a way of communicating and keeping somewhat in touch with
Touch.
things.
Yeah. Connecting.
So
Yes.
we have to
Important.
understand what is it for them that they are getting out of this. And
Well,
sometimes parents have to look at themselves too. To
yes.
yeah.
I like the. I really, really like the suggestion of family time.
Mhm.
Doing an unplugged day and incorporating that time, if not the whole day, a few hours, and in exchange, because when you take something away, you have to replace it with something else.
Exactly.
So a whole family unplugged day. We lead by
Mhm.
modeling.
Yeah.
And within the 3 hours, for example, on a Sunday or on a Saturday, 3 hours, you'll do something together, play board games, do a barbecue, have a
Mhm.
competition. There are so many things a parent can teach the children some game or other, you know.
But these are really things that parents would want to start early and maintain early, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, you have to start that early. So when they're already 16 and you're now thinking about that, you're going to have a more uphill battle than if this is something you nurture. That's why I said, let's pause, let's go back. What can you do early now? You need to build a relationship with your children over
Yes.
time. And that would be, trying to engage with them with the interest, do things together as a whatever your family is. Let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really interested in building that early. Yeah.
I totally agree. But at the same time, not taking anything away, o- how do we get those who are at the teenager phase? How do we have them? It will be a more resistance. There'll be more resistance.
There's
But how do
absolutely
they?
more. And sometimes I think we need support when it's at that age. Because sometimes, depending on what's going on with the family, the parents,
Mhm.
and the young people, it's hard for them to talk. And these young people, I mean, sometimes they will just shut down. They will not open up to these parents. So you
Yes,
might need that third party, whether it's a lecturer, a teacher, a counselor, a coach. There are so many routes
yes.
that could help, bridge that conversation or get them to get some support. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to educate all these different groups in being aware, in being sensitive, and making appropriate referrals so that at least the young people can begin to talk about what's really going on for them and get some support so that they can get their life going in the direction that they really want.
Great. We're gonna segue there on that point. Support. We, based on our topic, we spoke about the parents, we spoke about caregivers, and we spoke about caregivers and educators. Now we're going to speak about the community at large and by extension the government. But we're going to take a break and we're going to come right back to that part of it. Stay tuned with us. And in the meantime, you can also like and subscribe the program. You're looking at us whether on IG, on YouTube, Facebook Live, or SBE Radio Canada and Roku. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Running a radio station shouldn't be chaos. It should be simple, smart, and professional. With Joan Premium, your entire week schedule is beautifully organized and easy to manage. Real-time accuracy keeps your listeners in sync with every show. Your visitors and audience sees the right schedule every time, wherever they are. They can even choose different time zones. From analytics to social media and native app integration, Joan Premium is the professional tool your station deserves. You're never alone. We provide priority support for active license users. We're building a community. Connect with broadcasters worldwide through our Joan Community Hubs. Choose your plan, annual flexibility, or lifetime freedom. Get Joan Premium today. www.gndenterprisesinc.com or call 877-698-9894 for more information.
Welcome back. And the hard knocks question is, what is our community doing? What is our government doing? And how can they get involved? Or governments? And we also have the OECS projects, where by extension in our wider Caribbean. And seeing that you're from St. Lucia, I'm Dominica, so we're talking about a regional thing. And I know the OECS does have these programs. But and what is happening in St. Lucia for mental health, and how can it be extended to other islands?
Um, I mean, that's a big question with long roots. So our care at the moment, okay. So let me go back a little bit. First of all, I would say in my experience, there's been a big shift in terms of employers offering mental health services to their employees. That's been huge from over the years of my career. So when
Okay.
I initially started, it would be rare. Like if there was a major traumatic incident at work, often
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
something, maybe they call. Currently, I see several employers who are offering employee assistance so people can access 3, 5, 8 sessions per year. And that has made a huge impact in my experience. Just to have this greater availability of services. So, first, employers are doing that. The government services are offering usually institutional care, and
Mm-hmm.
that continues in terms of human services, family court, psychiatric services. All
Mm-hmm.
of these probation services continue to be available and they expand, they offer programs to help. But they tend to be, again, institutional care. Sometimes there's stigma around them. So people may not always want to access care
Mm-hmm.
at these institutions. So that sometimes can pose a challenge as well. But there are these things going on. Usually, education would surround mental health days. Usually World Mental Health Day, Suicide Prevention Day, these things you would see a burst of information out there, webinars on these topics that help, to bring that awareness out. Men's Month this month, there have been a few activities around that. Even at the college, we're going to have a panel discussion this Wednesday, and it's young people talking about masculinity and mental health. So within groups, I think there are discussions that are sparked by oftentimes by these awareness days.
Yes, I know this same is going on in Dominica as well, and we'll have someone else soon speaking to what's going on in Dominica, also with regards to the level of awareness and what is going on in Dominica. And hopefully, we will get other islands as well to see how we can form a network and what are the resources that are available for children, for adults, for young adults who can reach out. I know in the high schools that they do have counselors in the high schools for the children, for the students. I'm not
Mhm.
sure as to how the percentage of access that they not the percentage of access, that's the wrong phrasing, how much the service is being accessed
Okay,
by the
so every
students.
school in St. Lucia has a counselor. Every secondary school has a
Yes, that's
counselor, and
mhm.
the primary schools they share a district counselor. So a
Okay.
district counselor would serve maybe a number of schools.
Mhm.
So the young people now have more.
Resources
Yeah,
available to
they
them.
have more availability, let's say, than when I was going to school. There was no
Mhm.
counselor at the time.
I know in some primary schools as well, there are a lot more special education resources and um,
Hmm.
teachers available in the schools as well that I help. I know the Buffet is the it used to be called the Rosa Mix School before. Oh my God. You know, when you're old school and you cannot remember the more updated name, but it's located in my community. And I know they have a special ed teacher there that helps the younger children who are
Hmm.
developmentally challenged.
Hmm.
And I know that is available for other schools as
Yeah.
well.
In
We
St. Lucia, we have a government unit that does the MDT. It does assessments for children who are having behavioral or developmental difficulties. So they do assessments. We
have,
have the Child Guidance Development Center here as well. They do assessments for children who may be having, again, early signs of developmental delays,
mhm.
difficulties, etc. So there are some things emerging over the years, for sure. Yeah. Certainly, these resources were not there when I first started 20 years ago. So
Yeah,
it's really refreshing to see that being available. I
yeah,
think we have to continue to work on the stigma that surrounds
yes.
using them.
There are a lot of new services that are coming out. We have a lot of professionals now who more professionals now in the field of psychiatry and mental health therapy and things like that, because I believe also the younger people, as you mentioned earlier, are being more expressive in their needs, and
Mm.
people within that age group, our age group also younger, are seeing the need of studying to be able to provide those services. We just had a doctor graduate with psychiatry, a master's in psychiatry to produce that. Um, Gilda Nesty Tong. I
Mm.
congrats Gilda. She just graduated with a psychiatry. We had a young also Lester guy who works with the ministry as well, who does therapy sessions. We have Tina Alexander, who is a social worker and does so much in terms of therapy for people. We have the social welfare department as well, and I'm not too sure of other experts right now but I know there are some other young people who are going to do more masters and specialization in psychology and to provide therapy services because there is this need. What would you say to government, what needs to be done to ensure the young people take care of themselves mentally rather than just saying they're okay but they are clearly struggling?
Yeah, I mean, again, the awareness is a big part, right? We have to understand how things impact us, how things impact socially, how the politics of the time, the general atmosphere of our country, what is going on in the world, all of these things impact on our psyche
Mm-hmm.
one way or another. I mean, if as a government you understand that, you understand, well, hey, education helps people to be aware, but then you must follow that up with services. They need access to services once they understand, or they have moments in their lives when things are impacting on them, and
Yes.
they can come in and kind of mitigate that early, so that for many people with that early intervention they are able to get on, they learn some coping skills, hopefully they can bring that to future things they may have come up in their lives. So just increasing all opportunities for awareness of mental health, social and other issues, and giving more access to direct services, I think, is what I would focus on if I could. More programs, more opportunities for one on one counseling, education. For governments, preventatively, I would say, again, going back to engagement, we need sporting facilities, we need recreational facilities that are accessible and affordable so that every child is able to use that in a safe way. So, as a government, I would expand availability to extracurricular activities. Yeah, because that is a way of taking care of your population's mental health. Yeah. It
Yes.
keeps them engaged, active, creative, you know, and that is fantastic.
One
So,
of
and
the things, sorry,
go ahead, go
as
ahead.
I say, keep them active. One of the things we have been advocating for a long time in Dominica is a recreational space for young people. We
Hmm.
find that that is lacking. There is nothing for the young people in Dominica
Yeah.
other than the botanical gardens, and this in itself is still not a recreational space. There is not no activity per se. Yes, we have done some courts around the island and things for sporting events, but all children are not sport
See, see.
oriented, and to keep children fully engaged, even like a playground. There's a small one in the higher up in on the outskirts of the town. We need to see certain more spaces like that, more green spaces where young people can come together. We don't have a really good library right now, and we know a lot of children that don't read, quote unquote, but we have to introduce it. We do have the library, but the traditional building and place where the library was located has been dismantled, and there is this whole controversy going on about the land around this. So library services or even an internet cafe and things like that, holistic places where the children can go learn to be sit and be calm, and gathering spaces for the children to safely gather. I see this as very, very important. We do have a Ministry of Health, Wellness, and Social Services that oversee mental health initiatives and services in Dominica. We have the Dominica Medical Board, which is made up of doctors, of
Mm-hmm.
course. We have Health Promotion Resource Center. We have the National Drug Abuse Prevention Unit as well. And when I spoke about Tina Alexander, she has the thing called the Lifeline Ministries, which is a crisis hotline providing emotional support as well. You know, the Dominican Psychological Society. But this, I'm wondering about the level of awareness that is available. Again, to people may not want to speak about it, but these services exist. And if they don't exist, I always advocate for if something doesn't exist, go out there and create it. So youth groups like Girl Guides and Brownies and those little things. Get the children involved, as you were speaking about, get them active. There
You
is
have to
fun, there is
imagine.
music.
When we
Yeah.
were growing up, just this weekend, and we were reminiscing on that. I mean, a group of us who had belonged to this particular youth group when we were growing up, and this was
Mhm.
instrumental in our lives.
Right.
Gathering every Saturday, and then we had other activities over the years. But this group was so important to so many of us. And
Mhm.
now, how many, not very often you have community based groups or
Right.
youth groups like that.
Mhm.
You don't hear it as much,
The
and
village
so
council thing has, yes,
the
dwindled.
engagement with the young people is just dwindled over the years, I
Yes,
find. Yeah,
very much so. And we have to find some way of igniting that again. Helping them also look beyond, and that will also help them to understand how to work with different generations as well, understanding the needs beyond themselves, as well as helping us understand their needs, as
absolutely.
opposed to us living in isolation of each other. You
Hmm.
know, the our Dominica's independence just passed 2 weeks ago, and on the 4th of no, our independence is November 3rd. We celebrated 47 years of independence from Britain, and the 4th is set aside for what we call Community Day of Service. I remember growing up that the whole community come together to do a project in the community, whether it's beautification or fixing a gutter or cutting down big things, cleaning up the trash, getting rid of old vehicles and old things, people clean up their yards, all the community. That used to be so much fun. I remember us building a, the old, putting a coal pot, the coal pots out in the middle of the street, and a
Yes.
big pot, and the ladies are cooking for the men and all the other children who and this was so much fun. And we were sitting down talking about it, and then the radio broadcasters would go from village to village talking about what is happening in each community. And now I wonder what is it? We have lost the sense of community, and we have picked up the Western world individualized approach.
Yeah. And it's not doing us well. We are more depressed, more anxious, more everything, more stressed, more
Hmm.
ill than ever.
Yeah.
It's not working for us. It's
So
not
it's
working.
not working. So in terms of the resources, beyond what the parents can provide, you just mentioned youth groups, um, the other experts resources that's available, um, as well as life crisis hotlines.
Yeah, we have a helpline here in St. Lucia as well. So some people, the young people do access it sometimes, and that helpline may call me, especially if they attend any place that I work, they might refer them to me as well. So sometimes it can work that way, or they have them come into psychiatric services at the
Okay.
National Mental Wellness Center. So there are some avenues if people will take them. I
Yeah.
think the challenge we have, honestly, sometimes people are so reluctant to reach out.
Yeah. And as I said, if you are listening and you are interested, you can always send me an email at the youth effect 767 at gmail.com if you need help in accessing these resources. We know the stigma is real, and as Miss Plummer mentioned earlier, that you don't want people getting to know your business. Know that anything you send to the youth effect 767 at gmail.com is totally confidential. Um, Nobody going to know your name. You don't need to put your name. You can just put a number. I don't need to know your name either. You can give a false name. That's okay. Once you get the resources that you need and the information that you need, I also do coaching. I do youth coaching. I do family restorative coaching as well. So if you like that services, you can also send me an email at the Youth Effect 767. You could also call me on 929-803-6356. You can do it through WhatsApp. I have WhatsApp. And Francisca, what is your contact? How are people able to reach you?
Okay, so I operate a private practice from Bay Medical Center in St. Lucia. That's located in Tapio, near the Tapio Hospital. And they can reach me at ETA Therapy. That's ETA Therapy at gmail.com.
That's E as in egg, T as in
Yeah.
tree, A as in apple,
Yes. Therapy.
therapy
Dot,
at gmail.com.
yeah.
So people do that for you. Do that for you. Do that for your children. Do that for your grandchildren. It's never too late. I have a little thing I always write and post up stuff.
I
By
just, as we're doing that, Kathy, I want to say to people, as I said, my contact, I thought to mention that
mhm,
if you don't want to see, let's say you live in Dominica and you have so many concerns about confidentiality, or you just so self-conscious,
yeah,
you can see someone from St. Lucia, St. Vincent,
yes,
Trinidad. The world is so accessible now, and you can have
right,
therapy in
exactly.
so many places. So I see people all over the world, all
Hmm.
literally all over the world,
Right.
especially West Indians living in the diaspora. I see people
Hmm.
across. So again, you don't limit yourself that you may only have services in your vicinity or in your country. Maybe you can expand that if that is a main concern for you.
And St. Lucia is not a strange land. We are sister islands, as in the OECS, whereby we can go, even travel within each island, to each island, like how the states do with the states. You can go on your ID card. So going to someone in St. Lucia, Grenada, St. Vincent, Antigua, I know, well, I'm not, Antigua is not part of the OECS. It's just the four of us, right? Yeah. So reach out, reach out, and just do it for you. As I'm going to share a quote by Frederick Douglass, he said, "It is easier to build strong children than to fix broken men." We have so much expect. I have it above my thing there to remind me. The how we have to be to that with children as well, and our own young adults in terms of listening. We need to listen. We need to build relationships with them, as you mentioned. And we're having a conversation last week with Ajani Joseph, and it was basically on that as well. How we do intentional parenting, and how do we build relationships with our children. And that's, as you mentioned, the earlier we start, the better. But if you did not start so early, then it's never too late to start somewhere. And the first place to start by apologizing and saying, "But I'm sorry, I did the best that I can. I did what I could do with what I had available. So how could we go forward? You teach me what you need."
I think when you start
Forward
in
from
late,
there.
Kathy, there are some really hard conversations that need to
Yes,
be had sometimes.
it
And
will be hard.
sometimes the parents have to do a lot of deep digging and be able to tolerate what they might hear.
Yes.
I'm not talking about disrespect or anything like that, but
No, I
some
get
of
you.
the views and opinions that the young people may have, they may not always agree with them or whatever, but it's to hear them out and have a conversation about it. And so these hard conversations it can be a difficult time.
Yes, it will be. It definitely will be, especially as we're talking about if they themselves haven't been healed from these issues. It can be a task, but if we do it together,
Yeah, so it's just to say to be aware of that and to not think that okay, you want to try now and everything will be nice and smooth, and you will expect some challenging as you try to build something that may not have existed before. So just be
mhm,
aware, be patient is what I think I want to say, and
mhm,
kind of just work on being a bit more open about it, and with time growing that rather than expecting it to kind of just come together really quickly in a short space of time.
yeah. And it comes back to the coaching and the therapy again. If you feel you do not know where to start or how to go on, or get a coach. Send me an email. I can get the resources for you. Or if you want me to help you, if you want Francisca to help you, we're there to help.
Yeah.
And feel free to do that for yourself and your family. You only have one life to live, and the only thing we're gonna leave behind is a
Yes.
legacy for our children. You know, as we come down to the last 10 minutes, Francisca, what are the three things you want to leave with parents about being able to um guide their children from earlier on in terms of recognizing potential mental health issues in
I
their
would say to
children?
parents, first of all, let's look in. I know it's not maybe cute, but we need to be more self aware. As parents, you need to understand where you're at, what's going on with you, what's impacting on you, how that might feed down to your children. You need to be grow that self awareness and get the support you need. One, yeah. In terms of being available and supportive to their children, you you need that base, Kathy. That's I think that's what I really want parents to understand. Because if you are not open to even yourself and understanding who you are and how things have impacted on your own life, when your kids come to you, no matter how they come in 10 100 ways, you are not open to having these kinds of conversations, and they will know it. Yes, I would say to you, if there's something I would encourage parents to do the work for yourself as part of that. That is an important part because you want to be available. You want to be able to have difficult conversations with your children. And that means you must be open to that as well. Yeah, so that's the first thing I would say for sure. And in terms of the children, again, engage with them, build a relationship from very early. Engage with them, do things together, you know, keep them engaged, have family time, have extracurricular time, do things, homework together. These are the things. Have movie nights, have activities with your family, and build that relationship with them. Okay, and I think that's a nice early start for those who are younger. I think, again, like we've said, if the children, if it's like teens and early adults, we want to do some repair. You may have to do some repair in that relationship and be patient about trying to talk and open up about things and have these conversations that are difficult, but it means listening. Parents tend to lecture a lot. And they say again, like, why you feel that way? Why this? Oh, you shouldn't feel that way. No, we really want to hear, hear. And once you can take it in, how can you make sense of it with them? Not to just say why you feel that way, but to be curious. That's the word I want to say. Be curious about the experience, you know. Ask questions, engage, and try to understand what's going on with them, even when it feels really hard to hear it.
Give us some example of questions to ask because we have to go step by step because they say, okay, be curious. Okay, don't ask them. You said don't ask them why they feel that way because a lot of times they don't even know why they feel that way. So maybe we can start by saying, what do you feel? Where do you feel it? What is the emotion? Name the emotion. Do you
And
think that
no,
would
because
help?
sometimes, for some young people, I don't know, some may have the vocabulary and some may not. So be conscious of that too.
Mhm.
What's, I would say, just asking them what's going on for you right now.
Okay.
What reactions are you having in your body?
Mm-hmm.
If they are aware of what emotions, can you name them, or can you tell me what, or describe what it's like you get a description and you can work with that. So these kinds of questions could maybe open up a little bit more to getting a sense of where they're at. They may not always have all the words,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Well, we can help them with the words, we can there is something called the emotional wheel. Parents, you can go download it. It says it's on Google, it's on YouTube. The emotional, which gives words and names to the emotions.
Yeah.
I always said at home, okay, fine, good, don't have any not no vocabulary at home. Good doesn't tell me anything, fine doesn't tell me anything, okay doesn't tell me anything. So how can I help you? These words don't tell me anything. But if you tell me I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling it in my stomach, I'm feeling a big heaviness in my chest, my head hurts, but I'm feeling on one side, my eyes drippy, I'm feeling my eyes, um, what is it, twitching, and
Yeah.
tells me that you're stressed out. You know, our body tells us what is going on with us. And when you speak of self awareness, could you just expound on that a little bit for some of our parents who may not be too familiar with that term?
Hmm. When we talk about self awareness, we're looking at kind of that knowledge of our own thoughts, our beliefs, our intentions, etc. It's about knowledge of ourselves, who we are, how we think, what impacts what we think and how we think, etc. Yeah, so it's something that we have to nurture. We don't kind of just have it. We have to put time aside to spend time in quiet introspection. It doesn't have to be long, extended periods, but that through journaling, through activities of self development, whether it's coaching or therapy or other activities, you can, or just programs, workshops, etc., you can learn things about yourself. What happens, right, Kathy, is that for all of us, we have things about ourselves that are deeply unconscious. We may
Mhm.
not be aware of it.
Right.
There are things about ourselves others can see before we are fully conscious of it as
Mhm,
well.
mhm,
And
mhm.
going through introspection, going through self awareness, it helps us to build that awareness of all these parts of ourselves
Yes.
and to make them conscious. Once
Mm.
they are conscious, we can respond to them.
Yes.
In
Yeah.
our, we can be more in
Tension.
control,
Yes. And my
in a
favorite
true
word,
sense of
intentional.
we can be more intentional and more, rather than allowing things to control our lives under the surface, we can
Hmm.
be more self-managed about it. Yeah.
Self-managed. I like that. I really like that too. Yes. And we had a whole lot of things discussing with regards to what is hidden when we talk about hidden and mask distress, how we can identify it in terms of behavior and not labeling things but seeking help in able to help us identify what may be going on with our children and seeking early intervention. And if the intervention is not early but it's never too late, at least record it and we're going to do something about it. As you mentioned, we've so a lot of times it starts with us as parents to be aware of our own selves, our thoughts, our triggers, our trauma, and how that in turn impact on our children, and understand that the children will absorb that negative energy or toxicity which we are giving out, and that children and not just objects that once they have shelter, food, and clothing, that they're okay. But they're a total being with emotions and feelings and the whole package as well. They're little people. And the same things we're feeling as adults, they're feeling it 10 times as much as children because now they do not understand what is going on and they may be overwhelmed, as you mentioned. So the self awareness, as you just described, it's very, very important. And taking steps to be able to deal with that. So, in turn, you can help your children to identify the things and help them with what's going on with them. Did I did a good job in summarizing?
Yes, I think absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, don't be afraid to use the resources available. Check your employer, check your government resources. There are things that you may not be aware of, so ask where you can access services and see how best you can support yourself and your family.
A thing just came to my mind and I want to bring it up. AI. There is this thing that people are interacting with AI as a coach. AI is something that is a computer. It has been fed responses. It will engage with you just as you engage with it. Sometimes it will tell you what you want to hear. Okay,
Yeah.
so be very, very careful. AI is not a coach. It cannot decipher emotions. It's going to feed out things
Mm-hmm.
that you feed in. Right?
Yeah.
When we do computers classes, it first they tell you FIFO, right? First in, first out, or what you
Yes.
feed in is what comes out. Trash
Yeah.
in, trash out as well.
You have
So
to be
please
careful.
don't try to self-diagnose yourselves and
Yeah.
work it out through AI. Again, is you isolating yourself and limiting the resources that you need to help you to go beyond what it is that you're experiencing.
Fantastic.
And
Uh,
thank you so much,
yeah.
Francisco, for accept. You're always ready to say yes to me, and I am so appreciative. And I know I will be calling back on you again.
Yeah,
I
my pleasure.
Okay, thank you. I know we have an hour difference, so really appreciate. Words are just not enough to thank you for your support in this venture and to be here with us tonight and to pass on your wisdom and expertise to our listening public. So thank you once again so much.
Yes, my pleasure. And we will talk again soon.
Thank you. And say good night to that awesome young man of yours.
I sure will.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good night,
Yes, take
Francisco,
care.
and
And
thank you again.
yes, good night, everyone.
Good night, Francisca. Oh, she's such a darling. I love this girl. And thank you, everybody, for spending this time with us and listening to us as we discuss the, excuse me, the mass distress that children face in terms of discovering the hidden mental issues of our adolescents and our teens, and how do we help them, the resources that may be available to us, and how do we advocate for resources and to help them as well to access the resources that are available to them to help their children. So thank you once again, whether you're looking at us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, SBE Radio, did I say Facebook Live, and Roku? Thank you so much. You have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week. And remember, it is easier to build strong children than to fix broken men. Let's keep that thought with us for the week as we go about our issues, our daily activities, being mindful in full self-awareness of who we are as a person, as a being. And with that said, have an awesome week. My name is Kathy Robinson Sayan. Have a good Monday. Have an awesome week. Good night and thank you.
Yeah, yeah, wouldn't end. We back with another one for the youths in them. Yeah, young, brilliant minds, future in sight. Got the power to make change, make the world ignite. Let nobody say you can't achieve. Your dreams are seeds, sow and just watch them grow. But you gotta believe in the youth effect. We're raising up the youth effect. Can't hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Educate, we get the key, unlock the potential. A lesson every day, knowledge essential. Standing tall, walking proud, let your voice be heard. Unite together as one, spread the love with every word. The youth effect, we're raising up. The youth effect, can't hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Educate, we get the key, unlock the potential. A lesson every day, knowledge essential. Standing tall, walking proud, let your voice be heard. Unite together as one, spread the love with every word. The youth effect, we're raising up. The youth effect, can't hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Create, initiate, push through, no limits. Go ahead and live it up. Respect, positivity, you on your way. Break down walls, build bridges.